All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I'm being clearly visible and audible to you all. And this is the fourth of recording daily videos for scheduled 75 days. And I'm really sorry for the previous 2 days as I was quite busy, right? And I just had to refresh my mind. And again, in life, you need some sort of rest, right? You can just, that time sit back and relax and pat your own back, right? And now, finally, back in the track. And let's start off with our today's video with enthusiasm and New Zealand. All right. So, today we'll talk about the governing body of our India. All right. And when I say government body, right, let us just divide this working structure of our country into three halves, right? First, we have legislature, generally we know as legislative, right? And we have executive, right? The one which executes. And thirdly, and most importantly, we have judiciary, right? The one who does justice and injustice, right? Now, today in this video, we'll talk about very first legislature, and out here, I would like to highlight the main drawback or the lacuna that has been going in and around our very governing body of our India. That is the Parliament, right? We have two houses, that is upper house, Rajya Sabha, and the lower house, Lok Sabha. We know as House of People and the House of Representative, right? Now, in this video, why this video is different from the regular videos which you will see? Because today we will discuss the declining parliamentary productivity in our country. All right, so let us unfold and unravel why the parliament is lacking behind, and what are the things, what are the main factors that's degrading its productivity, right? And with the time, what can we expect, right? The monotonous routine, the monotonous protest rather than debate, right? That is what we are being able to witness as of now in the parliament, right? For the matter of the fact, you can refer to the budget 2026, right? What kind of discussion was going out there, right? Anyway, let us stick to our today's video. Now let us theoretically understand the declining productivity of our Indian parliament. First, see, the parliament productivity has been declining, and this is not new thing in our country. From the very beginning, in contemporary times, the level of unproductivity is very high, right? And in recent years we can see a lot of decline in the productivity of our session, for that matter any bills to get passed, right? In fact, in 2020, like, I would light bill farm bills, right, where it was again repealed, right? So all those sort of things, right? In this video we'll consider it as a huge blunder, or for that matter again unproductive outcome of the Indian parliament, right? So things like that we'll discuss in this video. All right, so this thing is very worrying, right? Because the governing body of our very country is getting unproductive, right? It's not fruitful at all for the citizens, right? So what do we do, right? What does it do? It undermines the legislature ability to legislate laws, right? To frame the policies, right? And in that process, what happens is we lose, right? We lose the very authentic standard of living that our country could have provided. But with this all sort of unproductive discussion, right? Unproductive getting every sort of bill passed without proper discussion, right? What does it do, right? It hampers the very citizen, it hampers this individual, right? It hampers every single person in this country, right? So in these things, right, the legislature must be accountable to the people, right? And to uh, deliberately, right, meaningfully on laws and policy, right? They must be very deliberate, right? And they must be very meaningful when it comes to forming policies which concerns the general public, right? That's there. Now let us break down all the key points or the aspects, important aspects, right? So first, let us understand what is the very causes, right? What are the factors, right? What causes the decline in productivity of our Indian Parliament? First is frequent disruption, right? I won't go into the bookish knowledge, right? How many sessions do we have, and what are those sessions, and how do we enroll, and how does that unfold, Banera? But see, what do we mean by frequent disruption? Walkouts. Generally, what does MP do, right? They just walk out, right? If they are unanswerable to any minister or, for that matter, opposition, what does they do? They simply just walk out. That's how our country is running till date, right? This is the fact that every citizen in this country must know. They walk out, they simply walk out, right? If they are unanswerable, right? If the question is very unpredictable, which they have not prepared, what do? They just walk out, right? That is the job our MP is doing, and that's how they are getting paid. And forget about getting paid. Once they get into their office, right, then they get lifetime pension for that matter, right? And that's how they're enjoying their life lavishly just by walking out of the parliament. That's how it works. And this is the very first reason of the parliament getting very unproductive, right? That's there. And what does it happens when MP walks out, right? तिनीहरूको like generally roles हुन्छ यो like apart from salary wages हुन्छ like I'm not sure when I was studying back then it was 2500 per day just to attend a session. 2500 per day, and apart from that they are getting different pay label scales, a different salary, right? So with this, and again walking out of the parliament, walking out of the house, for that matter, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, in any of the house, right? What do? They waste time. They waste precious time, right? Wherein they can have a very uh some sort of keep on like fuck, what do we call that word? Anyway, like I mean, they can just give you a good feedback, right? Constructive criticism, I mean, for that matter, construct constructive criticism, right? But they show their back to the constructive criticism, right? They are not open to debate, right? And generally, as a result, what happens? They waste a lot of time, right? And for example, right, there's all data and figures out here. In one session of Lok Sabha, right, the house functioned at only 55% of the total members. And I don't know what session it was, but the productive, I know you can just imagine the productivity when the half number of MP isn't present in the house, right? How do they do? How do they pass the bills, right? Where half amount of the ideas, creativity that is missing, which is not at all, you know yet it is missing, right? They don't have any sort of brain, right? Any sort of for that matter ethics, right? For that matter in creativity, for that matter any you know genuine gratitude towards the public to frame a policy aligning with their well-being, right? In the first place, that is missing, and on top of that they just walk out of the house when they are unanswerable. So this is one very cause that is leading to parliament unproductivity, right? Here are again few datas, like I'm really sorry if I messed up, but the Lok Sabha productivity is just 55% out of 100, and the Rajya Sabha productivity is just 42% out of 100. That's there, guys. And second cause of the unproductive parliament is weak committee oversight. Okay. Only about 60 percentage of the bills in the 17th Lok Sabha were referred to the committees. For that matter, what kind of committees do we have? We have standing committee, we have ad hoc committee, right? Wherein in 17th Lok Sabha, only 16% of the bills were passed to them for the review, right? So that's there. And when I say committee, what do they do, right? They scrutinize the bill, right? They have a debate over complex issues, right? And with this, the legislation becomes more refined for the general public. But unfortunately, we could only see 16% of the bills just getting passed in those committees, standing and ad hoc. So this is the like second reason for the unproductive, you know, parliament. Right now, third point is executive dominance. Right, I think you guys have witnessed this with your own naked eyes. Right, the government increasingly, you know, bypass the deliberation, right, pushing bills through with minimal discussion, as I've said earlier. And this erodes the parliament role to check on executive power, right? So that's there. And I said, right, the last point is shrinking deliberation, where they do not have proper discussion on important bills, right? And the very example of it is Farm Bills 2020, right, where the bills were passed with very little discussion, without, you know, proper discussion with the standing committee, with ad hoc committee, and as a result, what did it do? It led to the, it led to the, it not led it led to the public backlash and the very question about the democratic system and democratic legitimacy in our country. And this would be definitely result if you pass the bill with just a little discussion with your own party members. That doesn't work, right? So again, this again leads, to a lot of unproductivity in our parliament. Right now, let us look to an aspect, right, where what happens after the parliament, started. What happens when parliament starts being unproductive? What will be the impact? And impact won't be on few people enjoying their life lavishly with the almost every economy in their hand, right? It impacts the general public, right? And the very first impact is it reduced the accountability. Parliament watchdog roles weakens, right? Allowing the executive to act with less scrutiny. Second is poor quality of legislation. And I have said again, like in farm bills and all, right? Bills passed without adequate and, minimal debate or committee review are often, very are sort of just for, total pura, right, where the, things are very easy to pass with just one party when they have got a huge simple and as well as special majority, right? So again, it leads to a lot of backlash of public, right? And as a result, what does it do? Right, as a result, what does it happen? They have to repeal the bill, and again a lot of waste of the parliament, right, hours. And rather, they could have utilized all these things in a good way with a good discussion, right? But you know what happens in parliament, right? And lastly, what impacts does it have to public is trust, right? Trust issues, right? We do have a lot of trust issues in relationship, but things are getting so hard, right? Now today we can't even trust our own government, right? There's erosion of trust in the government itself, who is ruling our country, right? Who is, making the laws and policies for the better future of a country, right? On that very strata of the government where they frame the rules, right? They frame the policies, laws. Out here, we have got a lot of trust issues, right? And why does it happen? It happens generally because of the unproductivity of the parliament, right? And gradually citizen loses their faith in democratic system, right? Where, they see a lot of parliament being unable to function effectively and in, efficiently, right? So that's the guys. Those are the impacts that is faced by the public, right? There's a lot of trust erosion. Rather, it has already been eroded in half of the population of our country. Now there's no hope, right? That's there. Now, what are the possible remedies, right? There have to be strong enforcement of the rules, right? And rules, by rules, what do you mean, right? Speaker, chairperson, right? Vice president. I know. of the who is the deputy speaker, who is the vice president. Vice president also act as a, what does he act as? He acts as a speaker of Rajya Sabha, right? So out here, right, what do we do, right? They must enforce strict rules and regulation, right? They must ensure discipline and maximize the discussion and minimize the disruption, right? That is the first point, right? In order to tackle this very unproductive session that's going in our country, right? And second is mandatory committee review of both standing as well as ad hoc committee, right? And again, no doubt, right? Third is also very important. Third is time management in reforms, right? Fixed minimum hours for debates, right? And also question hour should safeguard the deliberation, right? In fact, potential deliberation in terms of policies, framing and any sort of public policy, right? That's there. And lastly, and in my point of view, it is the most important, that is the cultural shift, right? Political parties, they must prioritize debate over confrontation, right? And this line is very relatable when it comes to parliament, right? They must prioritize debate over confrontation, right? Because a lot of you, in fact, anyone who is into politics, right? I'm sure you all must have heard, watch the Sunset TV, or for that matter, in your mobile phone, right? In your laptop, in your TV, television, right? You all must have heard about, you all must have witnessed the parliament session and all. And what in that time, what do, right? They are like protesting like a layman people, right? The discussion which we have in our village with uncle and all, it is far more better than the debate that they have in the house, right? So with this, what I'm trying to say is, they must treat the parliament as a forum for dialogue rather than protest, right? So that's a very important point. Now, guys, let us just come to the summation. And in conclusion, right, the decline isn't unique to India. We have witnessed this a lot of time, right? And I'm sorry, and many democracies face similar sort of problems, right? And this challenges is inevitable, right? No doubt, right? There will be challenges, and challenges are inevitable in one's life, and as well as in in sort of any organization, right? For that matter, but the scale of disruption, right? The scale of disruption here is particularly very concerning, because it concern at the end of the day the whole citizen of our country, right? And if parliament continues to be productive, Hannah, if parliament continues to be productive, then the people well-being will be very absolutely great, right? But contrarily, if they lose the productivity, it risks becoming mere rubber stamp for the executive rather than the heart of the democratic governance and the democratic institution, or for that matter, democratic system. Okay, so guys, glad to be here. All right. Jain, and thank you so much for watching this video. May God bless all of you and all your efforts. If you've been till the end, I really appreciate your attention span, because in recent times we have lost a lot of attention span. So if you can listen this boring videos and all, like, I really appreciate you guys, right? All right, guys, Jain, and may God bless all of you and all your efforts.